I was watering my flowers and herbs this morning, wondering if I was doing enough. And so Larry Caplan is here to discuss that subject, because it's hard to know when this weather's like this. Too much, too little, how often? I mean, what do you do? So what's your sage advice, sir?
Thank you very much. And watering is really important when the weather gets this hot. Now, one thing I want to warn people about is, we get these heavy rains and people say, oh, wow, look at all this rain. I don't need to water this week. But when our soil gets dry and we get one of these gully washers that drop about an inch in an hour, about 90% of that runs off your yard and into the sewer. Does not benefit your lawn, your trees, your flowers. So we need to supplement our rain with irrigation. And there's just a few rules of thumb on this. Most plants need the equivalent of about an inch of water per week. So if you have a rain gauge out there and you're capturing the rain, we're targeting 1 inch. If we don't get an inch of rain, we definitely need to get the irrigation going. But again, if it all comes down at once, you're not getting a full inch benefit. When we're irrigating, we're talking about lawns, we're talking about trees. The best way to water those is with a sprinkler system, either, an in-ground system that is installed, or even just one of those little...
That's on a timer or some kind to keep it going.
And you can move those around. And again, I would put a rain gauge out there, capture an inch, and then once you do, it's time to move it. With our annual crops, especially flowers, especially vegetables, we normally need more than one watering a week because these plants generally have a very shallow root system. And so the top of the soil is going to dry faster than deeper down. And deep down is where the tree roots are, your shrub roots are, but your flowers, your vegetables, they're all up here at the surface. So we are going to need to water those maybe every other day or so. With plants in containers.
And that's me right now because I don't have a yard.
Those plants, those containers do not hold a lot of soil. They don't hold a lot of moisture. You need to check those a couple times a day, and you may need to water them every day. Now, when I say check it, a lot of people think, oh, I got to go out to the garden center and buy this fancy water metering system.
Water gauge or whatever it is. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the cheapest and most scientifically accurate way to measure soil moisture is your finger.
Okay, how's that work?
You stick your finger into the flower pot down to about the first knuckle. If it's dry that far down, it's time to water.
Pretty simple.
Yep, couldn't get any easier or cheaper.
So when you are watering with a garden hose in container pots, how do you know when you've reached an inch?
Good question. With flower pots, hopefully everyone has drainage holes in the bottom.
Right, yes.
You water that until the water starts coming out of the bottom of the drainage hole.
Ah,
and that way you know the water has moved all the way down through the entire pot, through the entire root system. So you do that and then, again, test it the next day. With gardens, if you're using a sprinkler system, I recommend watering very early in the morning when the dew is still on the plant. A lot of people water at night when they get home from work, but if the leaves get wet, they stay wet and you get disease problems.
Right. Early morning, I did remember that, Larry. I was listening. We'll be back with Larry right after this. Don't go away.